It's called the SECEF. Does anybody know what that stands for? That stands for the Seller's Energy Consumption Evaluation Form. But I personally believe that it stands for stupid exercise chasing empty fads. But I may be wrong. I may be wrong. Anyhow, this form is, word starts with M.
Mandatory.
Mandatory. For all transactions closing after January 1, even if it went into escrow way back in May. We're talking about short sales now, aren't we?
Oh, God.
Okay.
So it's mandatory, okay?
And you're saying if it
It's
hasn't closed
absolutely,
yet,
if it hasn't closed as of January 1, this form has to be done. We'll talk about that. Okay, the seller must, before closing, unless it's waived by both parties. There's the operative thing here, folks, unless it's waived by both parties. Okay, think SRPD. This is kind of similar in some ways to the SRPD. Okay, it has to be completed by the seller or by a state licensed home inspector, who of course has expertise in energy matters all over the place, don't they?
oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The seller, in the form it says the seller has no particular expertise in this stuff. This is not a warranty by the seller, and it's not a substitute for a home warranty or for an inspection. So what is it?
Stupid exercise
It's-
chasing empty fads.
It's another way to deprive spotted owls of habitat by cutting down trees and making paper. And it's pretty effective. Not as effective as the, what is it called? The Seller's Residential Disclosure Guide, 32 pages of garbage. Don't get me wrong, I love disclosures. I think they're great. I don't like stupid disclosures. And this disclosure says, hi, I'm from the government and I'm stupid. But we still have to do it. So you don't have to love it. Who's exempt? Foreclosure properties are exempt, not short sales. Foreclosure properties are exempt. Co-owners of property transferring title between themselves are exempt. Related parties are exempt. And anybody who takes title temporarily to effect a close. Do you know what that's called in this industry?
Like a flip or assignment?
It's actually called third-party relocation companies.
Oh, okay.
They take title temporarily so that the close can be effected. It has to do with various IRS regulations. And again, both parties can waive this. And this isn't required if within the last 5 years an energy audit has been completed.
Huh?
It became effective when? Anyways, these are the regulations. This form cannot be modified, cannot be altered, cannot be amended by anybody. This is holy text. Okay? Don't mess with it.
It's the 11th commandment.
It is the 11th commandment. Okay, you guys, everybody here is a real estate agent, correct?
True.
Or broker. You are not allowed to write on this form. Are you allowed to write on the SRPD?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
How about putting in the address?
Nope.
How about just putting a check mark where they forgot to put one?
Nope.
Say after me, real estate jail. You're not allowed to write on this form. Under any circumstances. Only who? Who can write on this form?
Seller or inspector.
Correct. Or, yes, Jody?
I'm curious, on zip form, can it be pre-filled in that regard? Because isn't the SRPD sometimes
You can-
pre-filled in on zip form?
You
Just the
can
address?
pre-fill in the address, but this form is not yet on zip forms. Although it
okay.
is mandatory,
All right.
it is not yet on zip
Okay.
forms. Okay, but they'll get
How are we
around to it.
supposed
Those
to do
guys in Detroit are a little slow.
So if it's not in zip forms, then where would they find it?
On the opening page, the question is if it's not in zip forms, where do they find it? On the opening page,
Oh, that little pop-up
The pop-up
On the
window
MLS.
that comes up to tell you what's happening in the world in case you weren't paying
The
attention.
one you close right away to get
The
to
one
the
you
read.
close right away and you never read.
Yes.
And you read so-and-so died, but damn, Ken West's name isn't there yet. Keep hoping.
You stop it.
Anyhow, on that, there is a link to get this particular form. Also a link of instructions. The instructions are just as long as the form. The instructions are only a little more confusing than the form is. But who designed this form?
The government.
The government. Let's hear it for government. Okay, this is the third page. You're not allowed to write on that. This is the fourth page. You're not allowed to write on that. This is the fourth page again. Here is where the waiver is on the bottom part of the fourth page. Guys, print this form. We're going to give you copies. But I didn't give you copies now because everybody would be sitting here reading the form and wouldn't be listening to what I'm saying, and then I would be really sad. So, take a copy of this form, put it in the file for every transaction you have, get the buyer and seller to waive it. And here's the rationale for why they should waive it. Oh, this is an aside. You'll be asked about this. Near the bottom of the fourth page, there's something that says that somebody may be eligible for
Energy help.
let's see, low-income housing weatherization assistance program. The, let's see, LWOP. LWOP. They use acronyms, right? So this is LWOP. Anyways, they may be.
Second for what?
No offense, no offense to any WAP
Hey.
in the room.
Go wash your mouth out with soap. No offense to anybody in the room. Hey, this isn't your office in Toronto, Bill, where everybody would have been offended by LWOP. Anyways, they're gonna say, well, am I eligible for that? Here's, just so you know, a family of four, to earn 150% of the poverty level here in the United States, a family of four would have to be earning less than $33,076.
Do cats count? I'm just asking.
Not usually, not under general, can you write your pets off? Okay.
Oh, I'd love to.
Emotional
help.
There's some pets I've had over the years that I would like to write off.
They're
Anyways, the only families of four I've ever met, not buying a house, but families of four I've met who qualify under that rule are selling real estate. Okay? So, come on, guys. Let's be realistic,
Are
okay?
those numbers on that sheet anywhere? Are those numbers?
No, those
That's
numbers
fine.
aren't. So just remember, it's from 33 down to 16. Nobody who's buying a house qualifies for that. Let's be realistic. Oh, you're earning $33,000 a year? Cool, let's go find a nice $250,000 house because you'll qualify for weatherization, LWOP. Okay, but just in case somebody asks you about that, now you know, it doesn't matter.
So stupid.
Okay, here's the thing about this form, okay? Don't do that. But the thing about this form that's really cool is if this energy audit is done and the buyer gets it and says, oh my God, it cost them $10,000 a year for air conditioning in this 1,250 square foot house, they can't get out of the deal. It's not like an SRPD. They can't get out. They're stuck. This form does not have to be delivered until before close of escrow. You're past due diligence, boys and girls. So they can't get out just because of this thing. Not only that, if the seller lies on this form, they're not punished. There's no penalty for lying. So this form
It's worthless.
is a really good way to kill spotted owl habitat. That's all it does. But you got to do it. So explain that to your sellers, explain that to your buyers, and get them to waive the damn form. This is the thin wedge that the government's putting in the door to open the door so that pretty soon this will become part of the SRPD. There will be penalties, there will be all of that sort of thing going on. But right now, this form is absolutely useless, but it is what word that starts with M?
Mandatory.
mandatory.
So when can you ask for it from the seller?
You can ask for it right in the beginning, and that would be the best thing to do
Right.
as part of your due diligence. You can put in your offer that the energy audit is to be supplied within the due diligence period. But for your transactions that are closing over the next while, get it waived.
Can
That's,
the buyer, who initiates it? The seller?
the seller initiates. Seller fills out the form, or the seller can fill out to waive it.
Can the buyer in the offer indicate that they wish to waive that form?
It still has to be waived on the form, so, I mean, they can.
Alright.
But if you're selling a foreclosure,
Well, you don't.
don't even expect, it's not necessary to waive it. If you're selling a short sale, it's absolutely necessary.
Or dare we say an equity sale? Remember
I've heard of
those?
those, yeah. Bill!
Yes.
Get out of here.
And here's
Now,